put all of that money on the air to figure out what the message is going to be and how they're going to distill that video, essentially, which is over a minute long, into a 30-second ad. What messages are they really going to highlight? How are they going to sharpen that further? And they are going to have to do that as the campaign changes. The guy who was making all of the decisions about President Biden's ads, Mike Donovan, he's not doing that anymore. And so they're going to have to figure out also who is going to make these new TV ads, what they're going to say, and get them on the air. But this is a moment right now of real enthusiasm for Vice President Harris, at least among the Democratic Party. The polls do show she has a lot of room to grow and is already improving on the president's standing with independent voters and the Democratic base. And so they feel like the vibes are good. The trend is moving in the right direction finally. And now they have a lot more resources on hand, and they're going to try to capitalize.
It does take time to actually edit pieces together. It takes time to clarify the message. It takes time then to buy the campaign ad space online, obviously, and in TV markets. So it's going to take a few days at least. Let me ask you, though, about this. The campaign apparatus. She's inherited President Biden's campaign team and the apparatus that comes along with it. This is something that was built for an 81-year-old man. Wasn't barnstorming the country. This is now a 59-year-old woman who can barnstorm the country, Eli. Can the apparatus move as quickly as she can? Can they get her out on the road and into as many venues in as many states as possible, given what they were currently or before this set up for?
I think so. I mean, these events don't take more than a few days to set up. I think in many ways they've already shown that they can adapt. I mean, on Sunday, after the president made this announcement that surprised nearly everyone on the campaign staff, we reported on how they just immediately went to work of drawing up new logos, figuring out the legal ramifications of sending out new fundraising pitches, making sure the money went to Vice President Harris and this campaign, and working out all of these things, relaunching social media, figuring out the schedule, writing new talking points. They have been really doing these things for days, and we've already seen her out there. We're seeing this video a few days later. We've seen her hit several states. She's given speeches the last 3 days. So she's already getting out there. I think they can do it. And honestly, the fact that she is inheriting what is essentially a turnkey operation, a fully formed campaign with operatives on the ground, a lot of organization in the swing states already, she is going to be able to go out and amplify that message and take advantage of that organization in a way that perhaps an 81-year-old President Biden could not. But also, the fact that this campaign has already been built will enable her to run what is really just a 100-day campaign.
You know, it's so interesting, Garrett. Donald Trump is in a position he has not been in before, where suddenly he's struggling to get the attention and to dominate the airwaves, the social media waves as well. How does the campaign feel about that right now? What's going on behind the scenes?
You know, Katie, it's fascinating when you consider the run that Donald Trump has had over the last month with two really favorable court rulings, including one from the Supreme Court, the debate, the collapse of the Biden campaign, his convention surviving an assassin's bullet. Donald Trump has had almost complete control over the kind of the coverage, the narrative, every moment in this race. Now he's in the back seat. It's not a position he's particularly comfortable in. You can see it in his social media posts, the tone becoming more angry, more aggressive, lashing out. You could see it on the stage at his event last night in North Carolina, where he joked, but, was actually being quite serious about the idea that he's dropping the nice approach that he tried ever so briefly to adopt during his convention. I think this is when, if you're Trump's campaign, it can be a struggle sometimes to keep him on message and to keep him focused. I think on a long campaign, Republicans that I've talked to believe Kamala Harris has a ton of vulnerabilities, and there's plenty of time to tire to Joe Biden or to drag down her favorable numbers. Donald Trump is very good at running that kind of campaign. But as Eli pointed out, this is not a long campaign, and pulling that spotlight back when you've already had your convention, you've already rolled out your VP, and the other team, the Harris team in this case, kind of has control of the big set pieces for a little bit while, can be very, very challenging for Trump world.
It's not a long campaign. Early voting starts in September for some states. I think November or September 20th for the earliest among them. That includes Minnesota. So there is not all that much time. Is there any regret within the Trump team about J.D. Vance? I've been hearing rumors of that. Is there truth to that?
I think that reporting is a bit overdone at this point. I don't think there's any regret in Trump world specifically. There may be regret among Republicans who wanted someone else before and still want someone else now. But the Trump team knew full well that they were likely to be in a position like this, that it was entirely possible that Joe Biden would no longer be at the top of the ticket. And when they made the decision to pick J.D. Vance, and they knew that they were picking somebody who was the least tested, the least vetted of the serious people, or the people they were seriously considering. That said, demographically, he still fits the way that they want him to fit. And Donald Trump himself has said that he thinks he's doing a fantastic job. I think how hard kind of Vance fights through these first couple of weeks in which he's going to be the subject of more negative attention than he's ever had in his political career will be telling. Donald Trump likes to see people fight for themselves and fight for him. And I think as long as that's the perception of how Vance is doing, he'll retain the confidence of Donald Trump and his inner circle. And that's ultimately what matters in terms of, the questions about whether he stays on the ticket or whether he's lost confidence. If Trump still believes in him, he's not going anywhere.
So another interesting thing about what we're experiencing now is that Donald Trump, who had so dominated social media now for 8 years, understood Twitter like no other candidate, and has been out there in memes and viral videos, whatever, for such a long time, is being challenged online by this, and I'm going to use the word again, groundswell of organic support by meme armies, if you will, but this time using Kamala Harris in a positive way. I'm going to play some of what we've found.
Well, Jimmy, if I do debate President Trump, I'm sure it'll be a competitive face-off where either one of us could end up on top.
Really?
No, I'd wipe the floor with him. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
I wish we were having this conversation 8 years ago because I feel like we would have been better suited, the three of us, to really address it.
Young and cool. Yeah,
when we were young and cool. We're all about the same age. I think, Garrett, you're the youngest, so I'll give this one to you.
Let's go with that.
Does it make a difference?
Well, look, the very early polling that we've seen so far shows that it doesn't appear to be making a difference yet, Katie. But again, Kamala Harris has been the de facto nominee for 36 hours, 48 hours. So we'll see how far this goes. That said, as you pointed out, it does seem to be dominating the discussion in a way that Joe Biden, even in the heyday of the Mark Brandon memes, never did. I mean, I was having this conversation with my wife, who's younger than the three of us, earlier today, and she was telling me about how her algorithm on social media is absolutely filled with this kind of content. And, by the way, with content going after J.D. Vance for his comments about women and childless women and cat ladies. I mean, the battleship seems to be turning a little bit here in the online and social media space. But again, whether it turns far enough or fast enough to make a substantive difference in this race, I think it's too early to say.
You're the youngest, but Garrett, I think you have the most gray, so I'll give you that.
Oh, yeah, that's probably right.
2 kids, it'll do it to you.
You're telling me.
Thank you very much, Garrett. Eli, thank you as well. Joining us now, former California Senator Barbara Boxer, whose Senate seat Kamala Harris won in 2016 after Senator Boxer retired, and former chief strategist for the Bush-Cheney 2004 presidential campaign, and MSNBC senior political contributor Matthew Dowd. All right, so we've been talking about what we're seeing online. I want to play a little bit of what we saw from Kamala Harris back when she was a senator. And this is why she was propelled to make a run for the White House initially back during the 2020 race. Here she is doing some grilling of a potential Supreme Court justice.
Can you think of any laws that give government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm happy to answer a more specific question. But
Male versus female.
there are medical procedures.
Okay. That the government has the power to make a decision about a man's body.
I thought you were asking about medical procedures that are unique to men.
I'll repeat the question. Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator.
So that was Justice Kavanaugh was confirmed after that, and then he was one of the ones who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. This is her talking to him about abortion. She's going to be running on abortion, Senator. How effective can she be?
That will be one of her issues. It's not the only issue. But you could see her prosecuting the case in such a smart way. Instead of making the big fight about a woman's right to choose, she says to him, Do you treat men the same way? And that's the way you win over swaths of the American people. It's so unfair. And I just have to say, she's been in this fight now for 4 days. This woman is used to making history. She made history as DA when she got elected, right? She made history for Attorney General when she got elected. Really tough to have a woman, let alone a woman of color, win in California first. And then the first person of color to hold my Senate seat at the time. And she can prosecute the case. And boy, will she have material.
They're going to go after her as a progressive Californian, somebody who's out of touch with the rest of the country. How does she combat that, Senator?
First of all, she's been vice president for almost 4 years. She's represented the whole country. Second of all, I got the same thing when I ran. They said, oh, you're too liberal, you're too short, you're too this, you vote this way. And I used to say only 2 words, really, only 2 words define me. And those 2 words are Barbara Boxer. Now, she certainly can do the same thing because she's mainstream America. She's the hope. She's the opportunity. She's the American dream. And this guy wants to take us back. So it's mainstream, I think, versus extreme, them. I just think we are in a very good position. Last point, I've been involved for a long time. The Democratic Party, Katie, as you know, is very varied. We run the gamut from left to right. And here's the deal. Because of President Biden's endorsement of Kamala Harris and because of who she is, we are united, and that is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you could have watched the address that Benjamin Netanyahu gave to Congress yesterday, and you can see with your own eyes the diversity within the Democratic Party on opinions, just from who was standing and clapping and who was not, who was there, who was not. The weaknesses, though, that Kamala Harris is going to have to overcome, we mentioned them at the top of this hour. She's not polling so well with independents quite yet, not with moderate voters, not as well as President Biden was, and not with voters who are persuadable. Matthew, what does she need to do to get those groups of voters, and what do you see her biggest challenge being?
Well, first, a slight tutorial for people on polling. A lot of people don't know how polls change and what order they change in. What happens first when you introduce a sort of a change in the environment is enthusiasm changes first, and that's already happened with her. I mean, you could see it by the numbers, you could see it by everything. So enthusiasm is fundamentally adjusted. The next thing that changes is favorability of the candidate. And there's a New York Times poll out in the last 30 minutes that shows her favorability numbers have gone from net -19 to net -3 in 2 weeks. And so that's a fundamental change. And the final thing that changes is ballot. And I think she's at such a unique position now because she enters the race at a point in time where Donald Trump is at his highest level. It's in the aftermath of the Republican convention, in the aftermath of Biden's debate performance, and in the aftermath of an attempted assassination. It's Donald Trump's highest moment. And as of right now, Donald Trump at his highest moment leads her by 1 point. The
question that's been nagging me, and I wonder this, and maybe we'll find this out in November, is do campaigns need to be as long as they've been? We've had these 2-year campaigns. I wonder, is it going to be an advantage for her to not have so much time for people to get tired of her message, to get tired of the freedom song, to get tired of the memes, not so much opportunity for her to stumble? Is the lack of extended exposure potentially a good thing, Matthew?
Yes, I think it's absolutely a good thing. I think people are tired. They're tired of politics.